Hey, boys and girls, buffaloes and bunnies. Weather report for Friday the 13th.
August, it's Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Us demonic hyenas love this day.
I know. I'm going to celebrate. I'm going to go out on the town and find some kid that's fallen down and eat their ankles.
Yep.
Ugh.
Yes. Oh, yeah. God, I watched this movie called Broil about vampires.
Broil?
Yeah. Speaking of eating children. Jesus Christ. Maybe that was a spoiler. Don't just ignore that. That might have been a spoiler.
I'm here watching now. I know what happens.
Yeah, well, no, it is the most bizarre vampire. A couple times during the movie, they ask him, "Are we vampires? Are we vampires?" It's like I don't know what they are, but it's an interesting movie. It's on Amazon Prime. They're like, okay,
I will probably run across it this weekend as I find ways to avoid reading serious material.
Yeah, watch Broil. It's kind of interesting, but it sort of does some cuts that don't make sense until the end of the movie. So I don't know. Anyway, get ready for that. But whatever. So Andrew, you were on with Failing and Poop last night.
The names you come up with, Speed.
I know, Failing and Poop. God, he failed so seriously. Anyway, one of the things that he popped up, well, I don't know if we should look at the video or what shall we do?
Yeah.
Here's David.
Yeah.
Now, the only other,
hey, David.
Hey, guys, what's happening?
The only other person I invited to this was Standing for Truth himself.
Yeah, he's not going to show.
Yeah.
We'll see if he shows. I don't know.
I hope he does, but he's not going to show.
Yeah, we've got some questions about genetic entropy. So is there any part of the video that you want to play that you would like to play?
I don't have any timestamps if that's what you're asking.
Yeah. Well, I got this one where he starts out.
Okay.
So I suppose you could play a little bit of it to kind of get some context. And I've linked it in the description.
Get the stream going, basically. Get the train going.
I linked Skyout's version of it. I didn't link Standing for Truth's version. So
Yeah, good man.
yeah. If he shows up, I'll link it for him. But other than that, fuck him. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
So we'll try this.
How are you doing today, David? Oh.
Very good.
Good.
Very good. Just it's really, really hot here, and spent a little time in the pool. I'm lucky. I'm very fortunate enough to have one of those, and
yes,
my little granddaughter came today, so we spent some time in the pool, and
lucky.
So, very nice. Yeah, very nice. I'm lucky. So
yeah, we need a pool out here.
Just got out and made a quick dinner, and it's funny when the little kids go nuts, when they're busy playing hard and playing in the pool or whatever, they get an appetite, and my little granddaughter just devoured her dinner.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I have a plan. We take all the younger creationists in this community, we throw them into a pool, and then while they're having fun, we lock the door.
There you go.
Yeah, I think we need to. Okay, should we play a little bit of this? And I think this is kind of the beginning. I'm not sure. We'll try it. Let me know if you can hear. Oh, I know what's going to happen to me. I'm not going to be able to hear it. Okay, now I can. Okay.
Oh, God. I'm going to have to hear my voice again. every channel I go on, and I don't know why. Anyways, so the topic I wanted to discuss was, I think, one of your favorites, SFT, on genetic entropy. And I've looked at it more and more recently, and the more I look at the more serious issues it has. And one of these I kind of want to start off with, which is kind of what seems to me to be a contradiction in terms. So according to genetic entropy, most mutations are effectively neutral, but at the same time slightly deleterious. And in population genetics, that is not possible simultaneously. Could you clarify if that's your correct way of saying it or whatnot?
So, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying it's contradictory to have most mutations deleterious and also unselectable at the same time, or
Yes.
Okay, so I am understanding that correctly. Well, I disagree because for a number of reasons. Skyout, if you could maybe share my screen real quick.
Hey, quick, Danny. What's the Skyout? What's his deal? Is he educated in genetics or biology or anything like that?
He's an older creationist, and he says he's looking into it, but I don't know what his background is in that. I know he has a degree in something. I forget what it was.
Okay.
Yeah. So he brings up he keeps bringing up this 2007 paper by Eyre-Walker and Keightley, I think it is, and in it they've got neutral mutations, and he just clips this one part right in the middle. It seems unlikely any mutation is truly neutral in the sense that it has no effect on fitness.
Oh, they're standing.
All mutations must have some effect, even if it's vanishingly small. Anyway, so do they unpack that at all and justify what they just said? I'm not sure.
There's a paragraph following that. I can try and find it. Hold on. Also, Standing's in the chat.
Hey, Standing. Sent you an invite.
What was the paper called again? I forgot.
It's linked in the description of this video if you got it pulled up.
Oh, well, that's going to take too long.
Oh, I'm not sure. Okay, it's called, well, I don't know, Eyre-Walker. Hang on a second. I got to find it for you.
Yeah, because there is something that follows it that's pretty damning.
Let's see. Hang on a second. Let me show you the paper.
Who knows? Maybe Stanley will come in and just defend himself.
There you go.
The paper.
Yep.
Yep. There we go. All right. Shit. So it should be on the neutral mutations part.
Page 3.
Yeah. Yeah. Page 3. Yeah.
Where the heck is it? Why did I lose it? It is. Okay, as such. Okay, right here.
All right. So you want to zoom in so I can read it?
I'm working on it.
Okay.
Oh, let's see. Can you read that? Yeah. Is it big enough?
A little bit more.
I'll see what I can do for you, Sonny.
Okay.
Youngster. Off my fucking lawn. Okay, how's that?
Yeah. All right. So let's see.
Okay.
So right after that quote, yeah.
His quote is right here. So
yeah. All right. So how about you read his quote and then I'll read the part that comes after it.
Okay. It seems unlikely that any mutation is truly neutral in the sense that it has no effect on fitness. All mutations must have some effect, even if that effect is vanishingly small. There you go. Okay.
All right. As such, wait. However, there is a class of mutations that we can term effectively neutral. These are mutations for which that term is much less than 1. the fate of which is largely determined by genetic drift. As
Yeah.
such, definition of neutrality is operational rather than functional. Depends on whether natural selection is effective on the mutation in the population or the genomic context in which it segregates, and not solely on the effect of mutation on fitness.
Okay.
This definition of neutrality implies that the proportion of neutral mutations is expected to vary between species for two reasons. Wait, zoom in a little bit more to that section right there. Can you at all?
Yeah, I gotta
All right,
go over here.
scroll over. There we go.
Okay.
Okay. First, for a given distribution fitness effects, a smaller proportion of mutations will be effectively neutral in species with large effective population sizes, a prediction that has been used to test for the presence of weakly selected deleterious mutations by, for example, comparing rates of non-synonymous and synonymous substitution in island and mainland species. In other words, selection can more easily act on these effectively neutral mutations in these larger populations, which is what we expect. So this only really applies for smaller populations,
Yeah.
where genetic drift is more significant.
Yeah. Where there's a possibility of a dangerous mutation fixing in a population. So for a large population, like say there was a population spread out over the entire Earth, and there were 9 billion of them. Okay, it would probably take billions of years for some near neutral mutation to drift, and that would be by pure chance that it would drift into fixation, where it would fix, right?
Not only that, but selection would more easily be able to not necessarily remove it, but to diminish its effects in terms of future generations.
Yeah, I think just drift would pretty much take care of any one of them. So what we got going on is in this entire 9 billion units, we have a certain rate of mutation, which is rough from 30 to 130 mutations per individual, whatever. And that's when you look at the size of the genome, the chances of that hitting 2% that is protein coding and hitting it in such a way that it actually changes an amino acid is very rare. But then from there, that person would have to breed with another person, and it's through recombination and luck, that mutation would have to end up in the next generation. And and then it would have to multiply from there and fix over the entire population, which is why that one particular mutation is very unlikely to fix over the whole population. So we've got a whole wide range of different mutations spread across the population, none of which are going to be anything other than neutral, because if they were, if they were beneficial, I guess it would, it probably wouldn't matter much then either, unless there was a bottleneck of some sort. But if it was deleterious, it would immediately kill that organism. 9 times out of 10, it wouldn't even become an embryo, basically, if there was something important that was knocked out of a particular protein coding segment of the DNA. So I mean, it all amounts to a very, very tiny effect that we're looking at with this mutation. Now, they keep talking about accumulating mutations because they think, like Standing for Truth, as I even said it out loud, he said that means that there are 700 billion, when he thought the population was 7 million, he thought there were 700 billion mutations per generation, right? If there were 700 billion and we have a genome that's 3.2 billion base pairs, how's that going to work? I mean, he multiplied it, right? And claimed it. That is not how it works. Every generation has a chance at selection, number one, to get rid of deleterious mutations. And then it has a very probabilistic chance of multiplying, into more than one offspring. It also has a very great chance of drifting out of existence. So you got all that stuff going on. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
I know Standing is in the side chat making these claims. Well, Speed sent you a link, Standing. So how about you come in here and back up your nonsense?
Back up your nonsense, yes. This will have what I believe are the best ones.
Come explain why that paragraph isn't. Come in and explain why that paragraph isn't a problem for genetic entropy.
Independent origins, which I'm sure I have that book here somewhere. But anyway, so the other thing. Okay, let's look at it. Let's look at it. What it would mean. Okay, he talks about rust on a car. Like if you get rust on your fender of your car, or rust on your doorknob, or the door latch mechanism, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you get one molecule of rust, and then you get two, and then you get 500 million, and then 3 billion, eventually your doorknob is not going to work, right?
Yeah.
That isn't the way genes work. Okay, they don't accumulate. They either the thing is going to be a viable protein, okay, if it's a protein coding area, or if it's in a regulatory element, it's going to be a viable regulator. And there's no means for these things to accumulate other than at a very small scale where you could have, like a regulator could get hit by a mutation, and you could end up with 70% of a protein when you should have 100, right?
Right.
And then what's going to happen is you're going to have a compensatory other mechanism that's going to provide whatever that metabolic pathway is, right?
Right.
And that is going to be selected into fixation, possibly, because that will now become beneficial. But suppose you didn't even have that. You just had 70%. And somehow that 70% spread out into the entire population of human beings, which would be a goddamn miracle, because at 70%, it's obviously going to be a deleterious mutation, and there's going to be a selection against it, right? So, I mean, what do they mean by accumulating? You can't accumulate. Like then if we had another mutation on that very same regulatory region, and now we only had 30% of that protein, well, either that compensatory network is going to take effect and fix, or that organism is not going to reproduce, one or the other. It's going to be selected out of the population. So what they're not doing is they're not thinking in fine enough detail about what the hell they mean by an accumulating mutation.
Right.
We can. Hey, listen, you ass. Okay, Standing, you butthead, come in here and have a conversation with him right now, or set up a conversation on my channel, and we can have a nice, calm conversation between the two of you, with maybe some help from his friends like me, and we'll ask you the questions we need to ask you. You know, what is this? You want to set up another one of your PowerPoint presentations, your preachy sermons on your channel?
Doing that, Standing.
Yeah.
I've already addressed these points, and you don't seem to take kindly to criticism that well. So
yeah,
we're not doing that.
Yeah, he gets a little angry when you actually hit him where he can't, where he doesn't have a quick PowerPoint cherry pick quote to answer you.
Well, that's because he has a script and he has to follow by it.
Yeah,
if he can't follow by the script, he doesn't have any answers.
Yeah. So anyway, so the other thing.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So should we go more into this paper? Or do you want to see this other thing? So he pulled up.
Yeah, go ahead. I think we're done with this paper.
Okay. So where did he pull up? What was the next paper?
Well, if I can say one thing, you mentioned compensatory mutations, and that's not even the only thing. You also have reverse mutations, back mutations in opposite direction, which, by the way, Standing said are too rare because Sanford said they're too rare. Well, that's that's not possible mathematically, because if you have more mutations in one direction are deleterious and more and more and more, etc., then that means that you must necessarily within that genome have more mutations going in the opposite direction, which means you reach an equilibrium. And he didn't really address that. He just said they're too rare. They're not rare. They're inevitable.
Yeah. So when I said compensatory, I didn't mean compensatory mutations, even though that is a thing. Back mutations, right? Could be a thing, or mutations in another direction. I meant compensatory pathways in, like if you have, if you have one metabolic pathway that produces some sort of product that we need, right? The chances are pretty high that you have another metabolic pathway that will do the same thing. And if that particular compound, if we have less of it in the cell, it usually triggers a chain reaction that will cause, basically, it'll either use that same pathway and it will reinforce itself to produce more of that. So it'll basically compensate so that you have the same amount of that compound that you need, right? Or it will use another pathway. And there could be like 3 or 4 pathways out there that are basically in development because of these neutral mutations. And one of those could very easily take over. So, I mean, there's more than one way to skin the kitty. Skin a cat.
Okay, now Standing is saying back mutations don't work. Well, I just showed you how they work, and you're just asserting, you're making that assertion, but you're not backing it up. How about you use a back mutation and back up your thing about back mutations?
Yeah, there's a probability of a mutation one way, and I think you end up with what, GC. I don't know. There's a probability of going one way, but there's a possibility of back mutations. But we don't have to worry. Back mutations are going to be pretty rare. Okay. More, but that same, the same reason that it's rare is the same reason why you're not going to accumulate more than one mutation in any particular coding gene. Okay. The mutation is going to have to, it's like, shooting at the moon with a BB gun or something, and you're not. It's not likely you're going to end up with two mutations in hundreds or thousands of years in that same gene, right? Things mutate very slowly. I mean, think about it. We got 2% of 2% of that 3.2 billion, and we got like 130 mutations, and it's going to happen very slowly. That 2 mutations can hit that one gene, and when they do, the chances that they're neutral and that they do not change the protein, the amino acid coded for, are pretty high. I think it's like 30% hit and miss, something like that, 38%. And then it not only has to do that, but it has to change it in such a way that that protein is no longer functional. And that happens far fewer times than you would imagine. I mean, you can change something in an alpha helix, a number of different amino acids, and you still got a perfectly viable alpha helix. Okay. And if you happen to change one of those alpha helix amino acids out for a proline amino acid, all of a sudden you got a kink in the chain. It's highly deleterious. Negative selection is going to take it out. So, I mean, when you get down to the minutia of what's happening at the molecular level, genetic entropy is fucking nonsense. I'm sorry. It's just nonsense.
Is there any way... Snake seems to be knowledgeable on this. Would it be okay if we can at least let him in?
I could let him in. You love to have... Okay, now you don't want to have a lot of people, and then you always tell, let this person in.
Well, I want it to be people who add to the conversation.
Yeah, okay.
That won't take it off topic, I mean. Sorry, no offense.
Oh, let me see.
I should have phrased that better.
I don't have them on my radar here. I do have them on my other email, but let me go get that.
But
Nope.
I would greatly appreciate it, Snake, if you could hop in.
I need his email in order for that to happen.
Oh, okay.
Unless somebody could contact him on. Let me see. Maybe I have it somewhere. I'm sure I've talked to him. No, apparently he has never emailed me. So let's see here. Oh, hell.
Wait, so now Dessel is agreeing with SFT? I'm confused here.
Oh, my God.
Oh, he just put in the chat.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Email?
Yeah.
God, why don't I have that one on my radar? I could swear I had emailed him before.
He said he's emailed you tons of times.
Really? And somehow
Yeah.
Gmail can't find it. Oh, I know.
He can't always keep up with his stuff, you know. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying, you know, sometimes stuff's observed.
If I type in snake, and Gmail doesn't come up with anything, what the fuck am I going to do? I got to go look it up in my database. Find out what his real name is. Yeah. Anyway,
the Snake would probably bring it up.
Yeah, you're always fucking picking on me, and you got no reason.
Yeah, I'm not really out into the conversation, am I? So
I know how you are. I know how you are. Oh my God. For some reason, Gmail didn't have it, and I have no idea why. You bastards. Anyway, so what we were? Oh, I wanted to show this. Okay, he popped this up, refuting arguments against genetic entropy, and that comes from here. Share screen.
Oh, the creation article.
Yeah, and I had to track it down because he managed to rename the damn thing. You know, which I think is kind of a slithery thing to do. You know, show something on your PowerPoint and not give anybody a real easy way to find it. So it's under creation.com. The article is named differently. And the claim natural selection will kick in after a certain amount of near-neutral mutations have accumulated. Well, I don't know if that's really the claim. Effectively, neutral mutations may well accumulate, but once they start to create enough damage to cause, yes, okay, there you go. Reproductive problems, they are no longer neutral. At this point, they become selectable, and NS will prevent further accumulations. Okay, so this is Daniel Stern Cardinal, and this is essentially the mutation count hypothesis. Now, they keep talking about this mutation count hypothesis, which is not highly favored and highly talked about anywhere. Right. So I don't know where they're getting that. And no, it's not.
Well, didn't even Dr. Dan say that wasn't what he was proposing?
Right. Dr. Sanford model requires mutation accumulation without purifying selection. The neutral mutations do add up and are a factor in reproductive success. No, they only add up. They don't add up. Mutations don't add up. They either do something wrong or they don't. They very seldom add up. The only way they would add up is in that small case I told you where if a regulatory gene was somehow slowly changed so that the so that basically the things that promote the gene become slightly less and less effective. So you end up with 70% or 60% or 40% of the gene. But as soon as they cross some threshold, you've got a deleterious mutation, and purifying selection is going to take it out, unless there's a compensatory mechanism. So I mean, they don't add up.
Yeah.
They keep saying accumulate, and they don't accumulate. That isn't how genetics works.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's about frequency in the next generation. That's what fitness means.
Yeah. But I mean, for a genetic mutation to accumulate, you would have to slowly make a protein less and less effective, right? The only way you could do that is if there was some regulatory mechanism that had less and less fit. And if that happened, then as soon as you cross the threshold of what a living cell needs or can compensate for that product, you've got a dead baby. I'm sorry. Then it becomes, I mean, at some point it crosses that threshold and it becomes selected against. So there's no accumulation. They want us to think something about rust. You know, like the door latch is rusting and becoming less effective very slowly in 1,000 steps, right? But even for that to happen requires somewhat of a miracle of hitting that same regulatory region twice. Some of those regulatory regions are like 20 nucleotides long out of 3.2 billion. So I don't know what they mean by accumulate. Yeah, tell me what you mean by accumulate. Okay, tell me how a protein or a gene accumulates mutations.
If you're not going to come in, just go away.
Yeah, I mean, that's all he says.
You're not backing up your claim.
Yes, they accumulate speed. You're wrong and so wrong. So give me an example of an accumulating mutation in a population. I want to
say sorry for the misunderstanding earlier, Dessel. I saw your comment. Sorry about that.
Oh.
He said he was talking about something else. So.
Yeah. Okay, so what do we have here? We'll get rid of that. Take a look at this thing. Okay, without purifying, the near mutual do add up and are a factor in reproductive success. So I don't think Dr. Dan said they add up, because I don't know what they mean by add up. Near neutral on its own does little to influence reproduction, right? Because most of them, and that's the other thing. They want to say that the genome is 100% functional, but if it's 100% functional, that means that any mutation would not be neutral, right? It means it's got to be exact. And no, it doesn't. If that were true, we wouldn't survive our first week of dividing and reproducing cells, right?
Right. Well, a mutation can't be both. Here they say the near neutral mutations do add up and are a factor on reproductive success. It's contradictory because a mutation can't both affect fitness and not affect fitness.
Not affect fitness, right? Yeah, it's a binary thing. Easily refuted. Go ahead and refute it. Tell me in molecular biology how mutations accumulate. Give me an example of a scenario where an accumulating mutation affects fitness, but somehow is not naturally selected against. I don't know what they're contradicting themselves, and you're hand waving, standing.
Yeah,
that's all you're doing. You're not making
just like last night. He's hand waving.
Yeah. And what do they? I think in this article they claim that we're hand waving. Well, yeah. The reason we're hand waving you is because your whole theory is hand waving. I mean, you haven't shown anything other than Mendel's account.
Exactly.
Mendel's account, right?
They don't have them all, and it hasn't even been published in peer-reviewed literature. I mean,
no.
They say it has, like, Kondrashov and all of them. But again, as I pointed out last night, this is for humans, which Standing doesn't seem to understand that just because it's in humans doesn't necessarily mean it applies to other populations. And, this was another thing, basically. Like he said, okay, you have these isolated populations, and they're already go extinct, but it's going to take longer for other populations. Well, I mean, that seems pretty much like hand waving to me. I mean, if we've, like, they're different mechanisms. Like, this was the other thing, Standing, like what you mentioned in the discussion last night. about the woolly mammoths, about the butterflies, about all those isolated populations is not air catastrophe. It's extinction vortex. It's due to inbreeding, not an accumulation of slightly deleterious mutations, whatever that means. So
Inbreeding could possibly accumulate deleterious mutations in a population.
Well, that's not how inbreeding works, though, because inbreeding works by a loss of genetic diversity, not a gain of genetic diversity due to mutations.
Okay, and then if the fitness landscape changes, then drought. But I mean, a population could potentially fix a I don't know how they would do it. Basically, could fix something like hemophilia, maybe. Probably not, because it would kill them. Basically, if the mutation spread it in the entire population, it would kill them. If they were that unlucky, basically. But even that would be difficult, because as long as you had, I mean, it would have to be something that's borderline, where some of the people that had the mutation reproduced, and then all of a sudden it screwed the population. I don't know. There's just different ways to work it out.
Does anyone know who Christopher Lansing is? Is he new to the channel?
I think so.
Oh, hey, yeah. Christopher. Hope you're having a good day. Welcome to the channel.
Yeah, he's probably been here before, but very familiar. His icon is. I don't know. Anyway, forgive me. A lot of people come in, and I get me people confused. Right, Scott?
Yeah. Did you send Snake the email?
I did.
Okay. Maybe he's out doing something.
I don't know.
Well.
Yeah. Okay, Baumgartner, him and Sanford did a paper, and they got it published, peer-reviewed, published, and it had a whole bunch of mathematics in it, and it was from Mendel's accountant, and I don't know, it's a hell of a chart to look through it, but it doesn't really prove anything. It's just a population model. You can model it pretty much any way you want.
Atheist Jr. and Nestle want to know if they can join.
Who are they? I've never heard of these people.
Yeah, that'd be I think they're kind of suspect.
Yeah, Atheist Jr. Isn't he a Christian? Isn't he associated with Kent Hovind on a Dinosaur Adventureland?
You got blood on your hands, Atheist Jr. I mean, I feel like we should let Nestle again, though, because he seems to really want to contribute to this. I'm sorry, Speed.
I can open it up. It's 22.
Yeah. I don't know. It just seems to be going slow, so I feel like maybe we can, I don't know. The more the merrier is how I view it, except when it gets too much.
Well, do you understand what I'm saying about this problem of accumulating mutations? I'm trying to figure out how a mutation would accumulate. Right.
Well, in order for a mutation to accumulate, it has to be neutral.
Yeah.
It has to be like pretty much neutral. So it can accumulate by genetic drift. Oh, hey, Snake. And
hey, AJ.
Hello. Hey, how's my mic? I'm driving.
Sounds good, right?
Okay.
It's actually pretty good.
So I actually had a... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm offended, Andrew. Were you saying that I will be off topic and Nestle will contribute, but I won't? Is that the implication?
No, that wasn't what just Nestle.
No, we were suspecting your connection with Dinosaur Adventureland.
Wasn't when people come in here they start getting Lady Diva all of a sudden. They just get, Are you saying that I would not contribute?
Are you suggesting? Are you suggesting that
sounds like what you mean?
Sounds like little penis.
So I actually had a question for you, Snake, if that's okay, since you seem to have studied this subject. So you said back mutations are a lot rarer than compensatory Yeah, I cannot pronounce that. Compensatory mutations. Could you elaborate on that, perhaps?
Yeah, so like back mutation would be like you start off with the original sequence and then it mutates. Back mutation would be going back to the exact original sequence, but compensatory mutations, the sequence, it's rare for a sequence to mutate in the exact position that it mutated before. So
Okay.
it can mutate in other parts along the sequence, but it's much more likely that that mutation will compensate for if that original mutation broke it in some way. Other mutations along the line can kind of fix that function, even though
Okay.
the original sequence is different. The function has been restored.
So
Yeah, that's what I
would
mean by
it-
compensatory.
right. So would it be kind of accurate to?
I think a more important
Oh,
factor
go ahead,
to
Nestle.
consider is like most of the mutations that happen every generation is just lost eventually. Like when you have kids, you only pass half of your DNA down to the next generation. Of
Right,
course,
with
it depends on how many kids you have, but still, eventually, at least most of them will eventually get lost because of this process of sexual recombination. But yeah.
Yeah, either you lose that mutation or it actually gets just kind of lost in the shuffle where
Right.
the effect is gone. Even though you still have that mutation, it doesn't have the same effect before because other mutations will interact with that mutation differently.
Right.
And I don't think that's what creationists understand. The
Right.
context, a mutation doesn't have like an inherent quality.
Exactly. Well, that's another thing, Snake. So when I point out recombinations, Standing always says it's not recombining the individual nucleotides. It's only recombining or swapping the genes, the alleles. Does that kind of make any difference in your opinion?
I don't think so, no.
Well, it would be like one parent's likely to have a completely different set of alleles. Well, not completely, but
right. Different
so
enough.
yeah, if you carry one mutation, someone else is not likely to carry that unless that's been spread throughout the entire population.
Right.
So if you have like at least two different kids, they're likely to have two different sets if the parents don't have the same allele.
Right.
And if it's that bad, one kid dies and the other survives.
Yeah.
I have a question. If you have identical twins, do they have the same like DNA sequence, or is are there still a lot of differences?
There's still a few differences. Like in every cell division, I think the number is like 0. I forget the number exactly, but I think there is roughly a few mutations every cell division. No, not every cell division, but
Okay,
still,
there are different levels of identical twins depending on when the egg divides and how many cell divisions there have been.
Mm-hmm.
So there can be more and more differences.
Yeah.
So they'll tell like they told my twins they're 80% identical.
Yeah, like I think the number is like 0.3 mutations per cell division, and of course, when the initial embryo divides, you have still a few mutations, and some of them are going to be inherited by the one twin and not by the other. Yeah.
Okay, but if you remember, like in 2004, I think when they cloned that sheep, I think it was named Dolly. I mean, that the clone would have this. Would that have the same exact sequence? Okay.
Probably not.
Oh, really?
Also, because as the sheep develops, it undergoes also cell divisions, and that will also contribute some of the differences too. So yeah, like you are a mosaic. Like not every single almost even in your body right now, some of your cells have slightly different DNA than the others. Of course, not the difference is not very big, of course, but even if you count up the differences, there are still a few mutations between the different cells in your body. But yeah.
Okay, Speed. I'm starting to get tired of Standing. He's starting to promote the. I mean, is that allowed here or?
I mean, the link is in the chat, so I mean, there's really no reason for him to just not.
Full
Still just
discussion
be-
to see if Andrew addressed the challenges. So is he linking his video? I linked the one that was on Skyout's channel, and that's where the conversation is. So
I mean, Andrew's not going to
Is
go
he-
watch another YouTube video while he's in
wait,
here.
but does
Is he
standing
denying?
does standing dispute the fact that sexual recombination means that most of the mutations that happen every generation will be eventually lost?
yep.
Well, you
Does-
don't
does
even need sexual reproduction because there are asexual species that, or there's like a species of fish that are all female, and they're studying them because they're worried about well, there's another word for it in science, but genetic entropy for Standing's understanding. They're studying fish because they don't understand clearly how they don't die off because they don't have sexual
Right.
reproduction.
Right.
But
Yeah, they are
talking
some,
about
they
Miller's
found out-
Ratchet?
Yeah, Miller's Ratchet, exactly.
Yeah, right,
and they
exactly.
found out that compensatory mutations are the most likely reason
Yeah.
for that.
Oh, really?
And there's a
And we
species
can-
of
they have a mutation selection balance.
Yeah.
there's
And they're
this
not
also-
observing genetic degradation in these populations. So they're like, our models don't fully understand this yet. So our models say they should be dying off, but they're not dying off. So clearly
link?
there's something.
Do you have a link to
That-
something on that with
Yeah, I
compensatory?
can. Yeah, I'm in the car right now, so I can't link anything. But
Yeah,
I know there's
what-
also a species of salamander that's all female, and they do a mock courtship ritual to sort of initiate ovulation, and they give birth to, I think, clones of themselves that are always female. And you know,
parthenogenesis.
yeah, I forget parthenogenesis.
Parthenogenesis?
Yeah, something like that. And if
Yeah,
this
my-
happens
God
to
created-
humans, then we're
God
screwed.
created lots of lesbian animals for some reason.
Yeah.
Mm.
We have scissoring salamanders.
Yeah.
So another question, Snake. In the context of the commonness of compensatory mutations, going back to back mutations, how rare would they be in comparison?
Let's
Is
see.
there an intuitive way to think about that?
Back mutations are pretty rare. Let's see.
Yeah, they have to hit exactly the same
I know.
nucleotide and mutate it back.
Yeah. But I know, I mean, we do observe them, but I know that they've measured frequency of compensatory mutations up to 70%. And then there's research that says there's like up to 9 or 10 different solutions of compensatory mutations for each deleterious mutation. And the more deleterious the mutation is, the more likely it is to be compensated for by a different mutation.
Yeah, because it would not end up in the population.
Yeah, if you break like a helix or something, just as a simple structure, and it's just like spinning around or something, if you change something else, it's likely to stabilize that structure just because you're changing things around. And the rest of the protein is, or the protein is mostly the same structure, so it continues on as it was.
So
most of the parts of proteins are not like actually functional; they're just like holding structure.
Right.
Functional, as in a functional group that chemically interacts with something else other than itself.
So here's another thing. Like, to me at least, this idea of effectively neutral mutations that are also slightly deleterious in their effects, isn't that contradictory?
Well, if they're effectively neutral, then it's contradictory. But usually what happens is they add up, and like certain mixtures of them will be deleterious. But on their own, they're neutral. And this is something I have talked to Standing to several times, and he never gives a good answer. So
Okay,
he
say
says,
that again.
so it's like the effect of pleiotropy, where mutations will interact with each other. So you can
Right.
have like different mixtures. Like if you have A, B, and C, that's fine. But if you have A, B, and D,
Right. Yeah.
slightly curious. Each individually, they're fine, and in some certain mixtures, they're fine. But in a very specific mixture, they can be really bad.
Yeah.
And so that would be the kind of cure for that is epistasis, and that effectively makes these individually neutral mutations visible to selection because it's all of a sudden deleterious. And so I've asked Standing lots of times, because he'll say that can't solve anything because that just makes the problem worse, because if the combinations are making it more deleterious, that contributes more to genetic degradation. And so I asked him, and he also claims that it's not visible to selection. So I asked him how it can simultaneously be increasing the deleteriousness and be invisible to selection, and he never answers because they're completely contradictory statements.
Sounds about right.
So it is contradictory to say it's effectively neutral and that's accumulating, but it's still deleterious enough to cause a decline in fitness over many generations.
Yeah, it's like a word game because they're individually neutral, but together they're deleterious and therefore visible to selection. And you can select out certain combinations of these genes, but if nearly neutral mutation A is spread throughout the entire population, it doesn't matter because it is only deleterious in combination with certain others, but in combination with different ones, there are good and bad combinations. So
and
that's
kind of where recombination plays a role in kind of coupling all the bad ones together so that they amplify the deleterious effects, right? Kind of like what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, I wrote something in the chat, and maybe Snake, you can say if this is true or not. But what I said was that as long as the percentage in a given population of beneficial mutations is more than 0, they're going to be selected for.
Mm-hmm. And the thing Sanford, I think, cites for his model and quote mines is, I think it's a Kimura paper that says that when you add in positive mutations, it makes the model unrealistic. But that's only because if you add in positive mutations, the rate of evolution goes up so fast because even a small amount of just purely adaptive mutations, which are different than compensatory. Adaptive is like actual change to enzymes instead of fixing deleterious. Even a small amount of that just allows fitness to go up so like rocketously high that the model just allows for like really vigorous, fast fitness evolution. So it's actually the opposite of what creationists try to paint it as. So and we know there are beneficial mutations out there, and Sanford's models, he just claims he just sets that number at 0 arbitrarily, and so that's a lie.
Yeah, that's one of the things that younger creationists say, because when they say beneficial mutations, they're talking about humans, but it's just not true to say that there are none, because we have recorded examples like bone density or resistance to AIDS or malaria. Like there's a lot of them.
And wouldn't it also be the
of course, they will point out, like in the malaria case, they will point out, like, there is of course a cost associated with the mutation, but
that one they misrepresent that one.
Beneficial is context dependent always.
Right.
Like with antibiotic resistant bacteria, they say, well, it's devolving because while it evolves resistance to this antibiotic, it's actually losing fitness in the wild. But they have done studies where they put those bacteria back in wild conditions, and they observe compensatory mutations that restore their original fitness for that environment and retain their antibiotic resistance. And that occurs in the 75% of the populations.
Huh.
Some of them do accumulate mutations that are bad for them, and they die off. But that happens to be a minority.
Well,
Right.
I mean, if you look at the number of species during the history of life on Earth that have died off, it's a lot of them. So, I mean, it makes sense.
You only need 1%, or even probably lower than that.
Yeah, I mean, and we've seen species go extinct in our lifetimes, or in past human history, like the dodo bird, etc.
Right. Well, I guess another thing to factor in might be effective population sizes on whether these slightly deleterious mutations can be acted upon by selection, right?
Oh yeah. It's the larger the population size, like the more effective the selection is. So you like in large part, like if you have a mutation that's slightly negative, in a very small population size, the effect of drift drowns out the effect of selection to select it out. But if you have a very large population size, then selection is more effective in selecting these slight deleterious mutations. Yeah.
And they've purposefully broken the genes on. There's this one study I know about. I'll link it to you guys in either chicken or some kind of reptile egg, I think. And they broke one of the genes on purpose, and then they watched what would happen, and the compensatory mutations restabilized that structure, even though it wasn't back mutations, so it wasn't the original sequence. And creationists have this idea that the gene that is there is the only possible combination of nucleotides that could give that gene that particular function. But there are thousands of different variations on an allele that can give you the exact same function.
Creationists think that the fitness landscape is consists of highly sharp peaks and nothing else. It's valleys and flat surfaces mostly. It's not just tiny peaks.
I have a
because
question.
there are some genes that have they have a weak point where you can change one nucleotide and it'll all fall apart. But that's not the case with every part of that gene or every gene.
Okay,
it's often the case that many proteins have a core called the catalytic triad, where you have 3 or maybe a few more amino acids that are really important in the catalytic process, but the rest of the mutations are mostly structural, and there's a lot of leeway when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, the worse it is, the less likely to spread it is, which is why he has to go with the nearly neutral accumulation.
Right.
So Standing is in the chat talking about, how you refuted this and refuted that. What do you think he means by refute? Because when he refutes things,
it means not refute.
He restates his original claim without actually responding.
He has several hours long circle jerk with other people, and just restating the same arguments over and over and over again, and then
and he seems to just show a paper that seems to kind of say what he wants to say, and then he goes on to his next PowerPoint slide.
Yeah,
but I've never seen him actually drill down and refute something. But
you just restate your original claim using different words and with extra word salad, like extra, croutons and extra, seasoning.
Yeah. So I guess
I literally asked him, how can something be invisible to selection and increase in deleteriousness? And he'll just go back and state, well, it's neutral accumulation. And it's
exactly. It's that's why I was saying it's contradictory.
I understand that the initial mutations on their own are not deleterious enough for selection to be effective, but eventually, if you're arguing that eventually after many accumulations, then it will eventually reach a point where it becomes so deleterious, then it must have an effect of it or on selection. So there has to be a point where that happens.
But there are orders of magnitude times as many compensatory mutations that can slowly fix things while everything is accumulating too.
Yes.
Right.
And also, there's also an important thing, like they often say that drift will cause the accumulation of the deleterious alleles, but drift will also cause the accumulation of the compensatory material. Of course, not in an equal amount, obviously, but still, the drift also has an influence on the compensatory mutations too.
I had a
Well, that's-
question for Snake.
Phase,
Oh,
there's
go
a, but oh sorry, I'll finish this real quick and then.
Okay.
But there's a space of functionality where it can go a little better, a little worse, better, worse, and it can go up and down, but it's still
Right.
functional within that space. It has to be really drastic to change function or to break function, which is
Also, just to respond to Stan, like he said that I'm wrong because by that point the entire population is under genetic sickness. Like Stan has already responded to that by pointing out that according to the model, not every individual or not every ancestral line will accumulate these mutations at the same rate. So some individuals will reach the sickness point earlier than others. And by that point, you have a differential selection by definition.
Exactly. You basically have to posit that every individual has the exact same mutations.
Which I don't.
Right.
they all have
Anyway,
different
what were we gonna say,
combinations of those mutations.
Yes,
Right.
Stan has basically to argue that every single individual has to say has the exact same mutational effect. It becomes very weird at that point. So it's basically a perfect accumulation at every individual, at every single generation throughout the entire population, which is
Yes, that is correct.
totally
Standing.
unreasonable.
That's correct, Stan. There are going to be some that are slightly more mutant. That means that they're going to be selected against.
Yes.
You just demonstrated the point. Anyway, what were we going to say, Atheist Jr.?
Okay, so I think it would be true to say that there are some genes that aren't alleles, but what would be the distinction between ones that are and aren't?
An allele is just some locus that has a difference in a population. So
Right, it's just a differing version of the gene.
Yeah.
Like like how you have genes for different eye colors. And
Yes.
that's an allele. Okay, but what would be I guess so you have a gene that I guess creates the iris in the first place, and then you have alleles that give the actual color. Is that right?
Well, it's a gene variant.
Okay.
So it's the same overall gene, but it has some differences.
yeah, and across, like if you look across the human population, all of our genes have a tremendous amount of variance. And if you go look at you go look at NCBI, you'll find like 100 variants for some genes, or 1,000.
But not like most genes are pretty much identical.
Depending on how conserved they are. Okay, like if the gene is really identical across an entire population or across a number of different species, then you have a very highly conserved gene, and that one, if it mutates, is immediately going to be selected against, and that's why it's more conservative, right?
Right.
But there are some genes in which we have, like I think Dr. Dan said something about, was it insulin or one of them? There are like 1,000 alleles for that one gene.
Insulin? I don't know. I think
It might have been something else.
I think that's more typical with immune genes.
No, there are like if you look between if you look between a mouse and a human being and a chimp, right? The human being and the chimp will have like there's one gene. What the fuck is it? What is the famous one in chromosome 2? I can't think of it right now because I'm dead tired.
The fused chromosome.
Yeah, what is the pseudogene at that spot? I forget.
Oh, the DEX11L2.
Right. Okay. So DDX11 is a gene, right? And if you look at it from the mouse to the human and chimp are 90 94%, 92%, or 96% identical. But if you look to the mouse, it's only 52% identical. That gene is not highly conserved. There can be a lot of variation in that one particular gene. Or if you look at the protein, you'll find that the amino acids vary by 52% between the mouse and the human, yet the gene does exactly the same thing. So,
Well,
I mean,
you mentioned insulin speed, and we know that from Danny. Danny taught us that insulin is a mechanism.
oh, it's a mechanism, right? That's
Yeah.
right. You're correct. You learned your lesson well from Danny. You should learn more genetics from Danny, and you can go join Standing for Truth.
I can learn about natural selection from Danny and from Fodor.
But no, the thing is,
I still don't understand that whole Fodor argument.
No one does. You just do a little better each time.
Oh, we're going to get into it again. We're going to invite Danny in the room because Danny, he won't come in the room with just me. He wants 2 or 3 others, and we could talk about that later backstage. But anyway, like okay, you've got an alpha helix here, right? Okay, there are a number of different amino acids that can fit into that, and that alpha helix doesn't change a bit. Okay, as long as they're like maybe they're hydrophobic or hydrophilic or whatever. But there are a lot of changes you can make to a protein, up to 70% in some cases, and still have functionality. So if you look across a population of human beings, which is, I mean, we are wide and mixed, right? We're a huge population, widely distributed across the earth. You're going to find a lot of variations. And that's kind of what they're mapping out now, is all these different variations. But I mean, protein function does not depend on an exact recipe. It's more like a 50% recipe, or in most cases, I think on average, you'll find 70% of the amino acids are conserved or similar. But you can look at the NCBI database, and they show you the conserved portions. There's a track that you can get that'll show you what's conserved and what's not.
Right. There's a lot interesting about like the immune genes that I mentioned before. Like,
those things.
They are so diverse. Like we have many different versions of these genes, and interestingly, some of those versions are more similar to some versions in the chimpanzees than they are to other versions in our population. So it's a shared polymorphism.
Yeah,
well, the immune system is really interesting, and I don't know if you guys know that channel in a nutshell, or Kurzgesagt. How do you pronounce that? You know what I'm talking about? Like, it's an animated channel on YouTube with the little birds. Yeah, they started a new video series about the immune system that's going to be 3 parts, and I watched the first video, and it's really good. Obviously, all of their videos are great.
Can you throw a link in private chat so we can throw it out in the description so we can come back to this?
Yeah, but only if you link my new video in private chat in the description, because I put the link in there.
Oh God, you're always
you're gonna make Speed irritable.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm coming out with so much new relevant content that I'm sorry if you can't keep up.
You can't throw a lot of content at him. He gets a little cranky.
Yeah, but I linked my new video where I'm talking. I did an interview with Hemant Mehta, the friendly atheist, and he gave some really great answers to my questions. So I recommend you guys watch that video because I'm shilling my channel. So
yeah, it's a good interview, and go over to Atheist Jr.'s channel and subscribe to it. And don't forget, Jason Torn on Saturday at 7 p.m. has a new channel. If you look in the description, there's a link to it. He'll be debuting with a discussion with Otangelo.
And do any of you have any like used cars you're selling, or antiques, or like a garage sale you want to advertise here? Because
in fact, we could just have people come in like on all those old radio shows, and announce things you're selling.
I'll put it in.
I just want to advertise me and Atheist Jr.'s epic rap battle.
Yes.
That is.
Okay.
I think it's still ongoing. I think you're gonna release your second one, right?
Oh no, I wasn't aware of that. But
I thought you said something like that. But...
What is this second link?
I already won, so.
I see how it is.
Okay, it says Speed. Can you link my new video in the description? What is the video?
It's the link that I put in that same exact comment.
I have the link, but what the hell is the video? I mean,
I
is it
wrote
like
the title.
you?
I wrote the
you
title of the
cleaning your
video in the private chat.
Is it you cleaning your sink or?
Well,
no, it isn't.
It's me talking
okay.
with a friendly atheist.
Okay, you put it down below. Thank you.
And if I can just mention, if I can just show my channel one more time, I did a video about Kent Hovind getting arrested, and it got 1,000 views in like 4 days. Just saying.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. Who are you again?
I just noticed a comment made by Standing. Even with fitness variation in populations, you still have a population of mutants with some slightly more mutant than others. So he basically admits there is a fitness variation.
Yes,
so
that's what I was saying.
What does that mean? What does that mean? There is selection.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's
AJ.
another.
Get them all linked.
Okay, I'm done derailing. You guys can get back on topic now. I'm sorry.
It looks to me like while our panel is talking about mutations and how they move evolution along, I think what's being put forth by our YEC interlocutors in the side chat is that mutation means we're all diseased.
Yeah.
And sin is just destroying everything, which is a totally different way of looking at things.
Yeah, well, what we got to remember is that they get all of their genetics starts in the Bible and ends in the Bible, and so they have this idea of this perfect genome, but yet they talk about all this mutation. They want 100% functionality, yet they talk about accumulating mutations. So they have to believe that their children are mutant compared to them, that they're less likely to reproduce than they are, right? Because if the entire genome is 100% functional and their kids are more mutant and they've lost information, then obviously their kids are less than them, right?
It's a very big problem. Like if your entire genome is like predominantly functional, then you have a very high genetic load. And by that means basically that any mutation will be very severe.
But think about that. Think about that in terms of cell division from the time you are a zygote until the time you are even a 3-year-old, a toddler, right? How many cell divisions you have. So if the genome were 100% functional and mutation is a thing, and we know that somatic mutation is a thing, there's no way that you could survive until you were even 2 weeks old. You would die of mutational overload.
Well, your body is kind of a natural selector because those cells will kill themselves.
Yeah, right. Some of them will
mutate.
Yeah. Of course, sometimes it goes wrong and you have cancer. Yeah.
Well,
but there would be only so many cell deaths before the embryo quit developing and failed to fix, and I think that is the fate of most mutations. Most mutations, 50% of the embryos that are fertilized never make it to pregnancy. So you never even notice that's happening. You've got a high natural selection at that level, at the level of fertilization and embryogenesis.
Well, even if you were to grant that the genome is 100% like useful, we know that some of the sequences in are just copies of copies. So surely those are redundant and could be removed. So I that's just one example of how seems to me like that's not very well designed if you've got redundancies in there.
Well, God's creation is so beautiful and wonderful, but also decayed and sinful.
Yeah.
It's also the case, like with, for example, with with sperm cells, the ones that are more healthier, the ones that can reach the egg tend to have less mutations too, because if there's any mutation that causes them to be like broken or something, then they won't make it.
And I'm assuming this is for just the humans, but it also, like on the creationist side, the idea I think is that there's this ideal template of a human form and human body and biology that we're not conforming to because of sin, and that it's just getting worse and worse. But in actuality, there's no template. It's just that we had organic chemicals responding to the environment, which changed, and then the organic chemistry or organic life that came from all of that changed. And there's just been this constant push and pull between the environment and between creatures changing over generations, and two totally different mindsets.
So before Danny comes in, I had one last question for Snake, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So Snake, what are your thoughts on, because Standing seems to confuse extinction vortex with air catastrophe, where there are some small populations where genetic drift causes them to go extinct, whereas there are other populations that are larger where selection is at play, and yet he still claims those larger populations are undergoing genetic meltdown, basically. What are your thoughts on that kind of equivocation?
Well, there is a kind of a limit. So they say under about 100 reproductive individuals, or realistically more around 1,000, you'll start to see genetic decay.
Okay.
That's also what happened with the cheetah, I think, right? The cheetah reduced it down to a few hundred individuals at some point, and now they are basically clones of each other, even though they are sexually reproducing.
It becomes pretty incestuous.
Yeah.
Which is a problem for the flood arc model, definitely, but not a problem for most animal populations.
Yeah. Well, because Standing, for example, pointed out this example of woolly mammoths going genetic meltdown, basically.
Yeah, Wrangel Island. Yeah, this is a common example. But yeah,
and that's not the same thing, right? No. That's a different mechanism.
Yeah, as Stan Cardinal points out, these are direct opposite. Like in the mammoth example, you have lower genetic diversity because of inbreeding. Like you increase the heterozygosity of that, and you get recessive diseases most likely from that. But it
would actually be homozygosity, right?
Yeah, homozygosity. Yeah, sorry, I misspoke perhaps. But
okay.
Yeah, but with the mutation meltdown, like the genetic entropy, you increase the heterozygosity by getting new mutations that are deleterious. So they are exactly the opposite processes.
Also, I want to say that the perfect human specimens, they do exist, and clearly disproves creationism. And she's called Natalie Portman.
Yeah.
just want to add that.
I can't argue with you.
My spies tell me that AJ was talking shit.
I wasn't talking shit.
Oh, you didn't mention me? I guess no,
I mentioned you. I was just referring to you talking about oh gosh.
Where'd it go?
Saying that insulin was
a mechanism.
I wasn't talking shit though. Yeah. I like you, Danny. That's probably because you're one of my patrons and you bought me off, so I can be bought off. I'm basically a sellout.
AJ, he's not in the room anymore. Where'd he go?
I don't know where he went. I have no
idea where Did you kick him, Speed?
What? I'm not up to anything. I'm not doing anything.
Was I talking shit?
I don't know.
I was just doing some light ribbing.
Oh, what does that mean by insulin as a mechanism?
Wait, I just got that. So you don't think it's a mechanism then?
Insulin? No, it's not a mechanism.
Well, I got that information. I got that information from the Wikipedia.
Oh,
no.
Hold on. What do you mean by mechanism then?
Well, mechanism can mean two different things. So it usually means either means something like a system of parts that work together to perform a function, or it can mean some kind of process in which involves those sorts of systems, right? And so in that sense, it's the primary mechanism. Insulin, there is a primary mechanism for blood regulation with respect to a particular kind of regulation going, I guess, downward. And that is insulin. It's perfectly sensible to say that. biologists.
Danny, it's okay. It's okay to be ignorant. Okay.
Am I? So you're just saying I'm wrong?
Oh,
yeah.
By the definition that he uses, I don't have a problem with calling insulin a mechanism. Like with the definition that he uses from.
Well, I'm just using it the way that most people use it, and I think the wiki describes it.
Nobody uses it that way.
Well, look, this is the primary mechanism for release of insulin. Now, is that the insulin?
Well, that's the mechanism for the release of it, but not that.
That's what I read. The secretion of insulin and glucagon into the blood in response to the blood glucose concentration is the primary mechanism. Now, that's in line with the definition I gave, right?
You misunderstood it. You called insulin a mechanism, and you misunderstood it. And it didn't say that insulin is part of a mechanism. It's one of the elements or one of the mechanical elements.
I would caution saying that the insulin itself is the mechanism of
right.
Of course,
insulin it fits the first sense of the word. It fits the first sense of the word, right?
It's part of a system. It's part of a
nobody
system.
Would talk that way.
Mechanism. Yeah.
Well, the secretion of read this.
Does it fit the first sense of the word that I gave?
Up and read this.
I already read. I'm the one that brought you to that information, right?
Yeah, and you brought it like with your childlike understanding of science.
Wait, do you look? Slow down. Look, I'm the one that brought this to you.
The secretion of insulin and glucagon into the blood in response to the blood glucose concentration is the primary mechanism. The secretion is the mechanism. The insulin is not the mechanism.
I would say
what we were calling you out on.
I would say the secretion of that hormone in the blood, and of course all the responses associated with it is the mechanism.
Yeah, the secretion. It says it right here.
Obviously, insulin doesn't work in a vacuum, but yeah.
Yeah, the secretion, but not insulin itself. And in fairness, Danny, if this is what he meant, then I would say that I agree with this.
Yeah.
But I also just love the idea of Danny complaining about somebody talking shit because he's one of the most adversarial people I've ever encountered on this platform.
Yeah, and he's in a mood today, so we don't need this shit.
I don't really have a problem with like the saying that insulin is a mechanism, except for a bit of a reductionist.
Nobody would talk that way. Nobody would talk that way. It'd be like saying,
I don't have much of a problem with it anyway. So yeah,
you'd really have to see the way he said it in the original context when we were talking about natural selection and how we said that natural selection is a mechanism, and Danny disagreed, and it was a roundabout discussion.
Yeah. Anyway, that was an aside and has nothing to do with anything. So. Okay, back to genetic entropy.
Okay. Do we get Danny back or?
No, I don't want him back. He's in a mood today. I don't really care for him. So, is there some reason why is Danny going to add to the discussion on genetic entropy when he calls insulin a mechanism? No, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's not good to come into one of these type of streams when you have a bone to pick with one of the panel members, because that just sort of derails everything.
Kind of what's going on here, you know? I just don't see the need for it. What is
this thing that you keep sharing, Speed? Is this your child's scribbling from kindergarten?
Yes.
Oh.
Well, I hope they got a gold star because it's very, very well done.
Oh yeah.
This is Danny. Okay, now you see him, now you don't.
Speed's drawing is top notch.
It's top notch. Okay, this is a fucking gene. Okay, so the blue parts are the exons. Okay, and actually I kind of misdrew it because God, it would be more like the blue parts would be a lot tinier, right? Like most of what you get in a gene is intron. Okay, and so the blue parts are the exons, and I made them bigger, okay? And the little green part before is the promoter. And the little red stuff that's way, way, way upstream is basically enhancers, regulatory enhancers that can either turn the gene off or on, right? So in order to make it change...
That looks like pink.
Are you being fucking Danny? Are you being pedantic? I threw him out. Anyway, okay. Yeah, pink. Okay, fine. It's pink. So pink is promoter. Okay, so in order to make a change in this gene, you're going to have to hit one of those blue parts, or you're going to have to hit one of those white dots in the intron. Now, that isn't the whole story. Genomes are complex. In some of these introns, if you read it the other way, you'll end up with a few RNAs that end up having regulatory effects. But let's just not worry about that for a second. So you would have to modify something in the blue part. Now, if you modify something in the blue part, you're going to end up affecting maybe this alpha helix, and chances are you aren't going to change that alpha helix, okay? You might change something here, which is kind of the active motif of the gene, the part that actually does the enzymatic action. Or, you know, if you modify enough in one of these alpha helices or in these beta sheets, you may change the effect of the enzyme a little bit so that it doesn't fit quite as well or something like that. But I mean, it's sort of, it's not exactly a Lego set, but kind of a Lego set. It's just that you can make a lot of changes before you're going to make a difference. Okay, so you have to accumulate a difference. Now, one way that it could happen is if you made like one nucleotide changes in this regulator or promoter. Now that promoter has to have something that attaches to it up here, basically. And if you keep making changes and it veers away from what that thing likes to attach to, it may attach less. And that means you're going to get less of that gene in this pathway right here, right? So you got this pathway here and it becomes mutated and you have less of this product in your cell, okay? Now the chances are that there's a compensatory mechanism that will turn on when this becomes low, this will turn on and it'll replace it. Okay, but if something happens to both of those mechanisms, you know, like it's almost magical thinking that something would happen to both of those mechanisms and this product turns off completely. So now we have an accumulation of mutations. So that would be like they say that, you know, the addition of mutations, right? That would basically add up to a problem. So all of a sudden, this thing, because of one more mutation right here, would end up killing the organism and it would be selected against. So that's kind of what happens. Now I don't understand genetic entropy with this slowly degrading like rust on a car of an organism, because it's more binary than that. If I knock out this gene and that gene and that gene, I got a dead organism. Okay, so that is my problem with genetic entropy. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Crickets.
Chirp, 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 chirp.
Okay, does that make sense? I mean, I'm trying to steelman genetic entropy to think of a way. I'm trying to think of a way that it could like accumulate and slowly melt a entire population like the size of humans down to the point where what would it be? You know, so maybe all humans end up having just this one mechanism, and then suddenly another mutation happens and starts knocking that out. Well, those people are going to die and they're not going to reproduce. And the people that don't have this are still going to be mutating. So what might happen is these little alternate mechanisms, okay, that aren't working may develop a mutation that ends up creating that product. And then we have evolutionary change. And what's going on is that we probably have 5 different pathways that could make that product. And 2 of them don't work yet. Okay, but these are like pseudogenes. Okay. And for enough mutations, like in part of that population, this pseudogene may develop a pathway where it works for maybe just a small part of the population. So now suppose we knock this one out, knock that one out, knock that one out, knock that one out. These guys are going to be the population. They are going to reproduce, end up in the future, and that's how evolution happens. And it's that clear.
It's kind of a danger in if there's no more selection left, and increasingly there's less and less selection on human beings, but
right,
that's a change in environment. So if we have all these genetic diseases, but we can treat them with drugs and medical interventions, then all of a sudden the environment is making it so that they're not as deleterious exchanges. So it's
Yeah,
probably not as big a problem as. And the other thing is,
okay,
if we lose the ability to a certain nutrient, like we can't produce all the amino acids, but plants can. I don't know why God created us to do that. Well, we can just eat other things that have it in them,
right?
And then we don't.
Well, the
danger in our bodies anyway.
Okay, the danger would be that if this scenario happened and the entire population just happened to lose all of these pathways, and we were reliant on this one little tiny subsection of the population, like there's say there's 25 people in Cuba, and then a hurricane kills them all, and now we have an extinct species. We know species go extinct, and we know that it's because they end up in these loopholes, which are rare, but they happen, I guess, quite a bit. You know, there's a lot of extinct species. I mean, this is just evolution in action. That's kind of what they're talking about. So I don't see the problem. But I mean, if you look at this at the molecular level, there are a lot of questions for genetic entropy. And that's kind of what I'm pointing out here. What is the addition or what is the accumulation of mutations? What does it mean? What does it mean for an organism and for a population? So anyway, I'll shut the fuck up. Fuck you.
Well, and again, you're also accumulating good mutations.
Yeah. Other possible pathways. And the thing is, we have all these pseudogenes, all these duplications, all of these transposons moving around, constantly shuffling around, creating new genetic pathways. And that's something that we've just barely scraped the surface on. We're looking for pathways that kill us, okay? And in that search, we're going to start to find all of these half-done pathways that are almost there, but for one mutation, they could be a functional pathway to create an amino acid, to regulate something or whatever. And it is such a complex, the body of different cell types. And that's kind of what we're doing with that story of evolution, is I'm going to try to develop these ideas going forward so that you can visualize how evolution is possible. So,
well, what they don't realize too is that nearly neutral accumulation is actually, you could be building a really functional gene in the background the whole time.
Yes,
and then,
that's what I mean.
And then one last mutation kind of kicks it on.
Yeah,
and what they're complaining about is actually a huge mechanism for positive, in their mind, there's a positive direction of evolution, but fitness increase.
Yep.
Can I ask a random question?
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's related to science and genetics, I doubt it's random.
Oh, well, it isn't actually related to genetics. Just has anyone seen the channel Science Asylum by Nick Lucid? So it's on.
No, negative.
Yeah, he just posted a video this morning about why we know dark matter exists. Anyway, just throwing that out there.
I have seen the channel.
What's it
Science
called?
Asylum?
Yeah, the Science Asylum.
I'll look that up.
I think he makes really good content, but I have to be honest, I find his presentation to be quite cringy. I mean,
sorry. Could somebody put all that in a private chat for me? Is that a channel that I should put in my stuff?
I can.
I'll do that.
Can try and
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't worry about it, Speed.
Hey, was Danny here earlier? Did something happen?
Yeah, he kicked me out because he couldn't take the
Danny is here.
He's still here. He isn't going to be here long.
You should read that paper. You should read that paper. That paper is exactly what I described to you. Remember in the beginning when I came in, I said there are two senses of the word mechanism in science, okay? There's the third sense is a philosophical sense of mechanism when we're talking about like robots or, the idea that, Nietzsche wasn't a mechanist in the sense that he thought that we were just robots. But the idea here is that if something is consistent in terms of parts and whole and has a function, That's a sufficient condition for that being a mechanism in biology. Okay, and so insulin fits that description. Okay, and then I said, excuse me, sir. And then in the second rendition, it does.
Wait, what did you say? Be nice now, Danny.
You interrupted me. You be nice. You behave, right? Just because you have power.
Fuck you.
Danny's not right.
Poor Danny. Poor Danny.
I don't know if Danny doesn't understand what power means. I don't think. Anyway, okay, I'll read the paper. I'll read the paper and we'll discuss it on Monday's weather report, or maybe SNATA or something like that. Maybe you can come in, Danny, after you've had some rest, maybe chilled out a little bit, whatever. So anyway.
So a mechanism is not one single part. So insulin is not a mechanism, but a mechanism is an interaction of two or more different parts. So insulin is a part of a mechanism.
Yeah, I mean, even the article he linked said that the release of it was the mechanism, not the actual chemical, or I don't know if insulin's a chemical, but not insulin itself is not the release of it, which, you know, I agree with that, but
we'll look at the paper. We'll get into it. Go ahead.
Sorry, well, I mean, it just gets bogged down in semantics a lot.
I know. I was going to say that we might have a stream tonight. We might have one. We're definitely going to have one tomorrow night. And I'll take a look at the paper and we'll try to figure out what Danny's talking about. And he can come in after he's chilled out a little bit. But I want to point out that Animated came in here yesterday. I don't think he said a word or got a word in edgewise. So I just wanted to know if you had anything that you want to add to anything, or you want to tell us what you think.
Well, I was kind of wary of Animated because didn't he say he was a friend of Gromania?
I know.
So that automatically put me on a
germ mania. Yeah.
I don't know why everyone has such a hard time with my name.
That sounds like germs, and I don't like germs because that makes me think about COVID.
No, I've got people calling me Jur. I've got people calling me Gar. Anything but Gur.
I just need you to stay socially distant away from my avatar. So as long as you're at least 2 spaces away from me, we're good.
And you'll notice that we still haven't let Animated say a fucking word.
Oh,
your avatar does not seem to have a mask. So,
God damn it!
I'm going to be reporting you.
Animated, yeah, he's been on my streams many times. He's cool. He likes to poke fun at LPP.
LPP, you love LPP.
Friend of mine, man.
See, you wanted me to say my LPP joke, but we weren't talking about LPP, and I thought it would be irrelevant and derailing.
No, for real.
That's what I wanted you. Sorry,
stupid.
That's why I wanted you to say your joke, because it'd be so off topic.
Oh, okay.
Just because everybody would be like, okay, well, anyway.
I'm gonna put you all in the back room.
Yeah, I've already been making Speed mad during this stream, so I don't want to aggravate him anymore, and he'll have to take.
Are you pulling a Danny?
No, I'm not pulling a Danny. I'm pulling like a Dan, but not the full Danny.
Well, as soon as Danny started talking back, I was like, "Oh, he's about to get booted." And before I could finish that thought in my head, it happened.
He's
so
aggressive. He's like a wiry little spider monkey.
I know. I won't. I'll have less of a problem with you when I surpass you in subcount again.
Who, me?
But right now, fuck you, AJ.
Oh, okay.
Wait, did you say in content or in viewers? Or
no, in sub count, man. I think he's ahead of me in sub count. Anybody that's ahead of me in sub count and comes in here and kills their channel and then advertises their garage sale, advertises their fucking 62 Chevy, it's like, come on, dude.
That's the only reason I'm here.
Did you guys know? Did you guys know that I now have 10 videos with 1,000 views or more?
Yeah, you fucker. I hate
you. What? How do you do that?
Get rid of that son of a bitch.
Be gone.
How did you manage to pull that off? I've got maybe 100 videos and only maybe 10 of them, or probably less than 10 of them, have 1,000 views.
2 words: Kent and Hovind.
Yeah. Honestly,
Oh, you know what else works? Darth
drama.
and Dawkins. Darth and Dawkins works. I got a
Oh yeah.
1,000 views on one of those videos. Yeah.
Yeah, my
How
video
about
talking to
John
Darth.
Mad Ox? He's a Mad Ox.
Yeah.
Mad Ox works too. Well,
That's
no,
an
Mad Ox.
insult.
Well, I don't
Oxford.
think you'd get enough views with an LPP response
No.
video.
Yeah, my videos about LPP don't do that great, but the Kent Hovind stuff recently has been really a lot of people have been interested in it. The drama is always good for view counts.
That's why I do live streams, because it's nothing but drama.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, sorry. Just real quick. I agree, Erica. He was pretty much a bunch of hand waving, bunch of waste of time. But I guess you'll have to rewatch because we tried our best to roast him back.
I'm just glad you're not addicted to gambling. I'm glad you're addicted to YEC YouTube channels.
Me too.
I forgot about Erica's idea, or her concept that we're not supposed to engage with SFT anymore. I forgot about that. So that's,
Yeah.
So the thing is, what's standing is if he's not willing to come in and support his stuff in detail at the level that I just drew pictures on, and explain exactly how genetic entropy works, and if he keeps just cherry picking and putting up his little PowerPoint presentation with the same tired old papers, I'm afraid we're either going to have to ignore him or just keep making fun of him. I don't know, because his reputations suck. I mean, there's nothing to him.
You have to give him credit. He's trying to school evolutionists.
They just have buzzwords and quote mines, but no actual understanding of how it all fits together.
Yeah, and if you draw them into the details, they get all pissy with you because they don't care for that. I mean, if you actually pull up the paper and say, "Okay, let's read the paper together. Let's look at the paragraph. Let's look at the paragraph after your cherry pick." Or like the famous one where I showed Otangelo the conclusion of the paper, and it talked about creationists basically cherry picking probability figures at the end of the paper, where he had cherry picked a probability sentence. It was excellent.
Speaking of Otangelo, he was on my stream last night for probably a good 2 hours, and which was my least favorite part, to be honest. But oh man. It was him versus everyone in the room.
You had a hell of a stream last night. What was the highest? How many simultaneous viewers did you have?
I haven't checked that yet. I usually let it process a day or two. Yeah, it was probably one of my better performance-wise, one of my better live streams.
Not the last stream I did, but the one before it, I had 31 concurrent viewers, which was high for me.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. That's usually my highest is like maybe 25, maybe.
Yeah, you had a lot more last night. I think you got a lot of views on that thing.
I need to get on one of your streams, Garrett. Sounds like it would be fun.
So I got up at 1 o'clock, and you wussies had already gone to bed, and I couldn't get on, so I went on Cat Sowagos or so. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I went on her stream for a little while. So
she sent me the link to it, but I didn't see it until this morning.
Somebody said Otangelo 3 times.
I'm glad that you can pronounce Otangelo right, Speed, because I've heard so many different pronunciations.
Otangelo, yeah.
Yeah.
I love saying it Otangelo.
Or Orangelo.
Or I prefer wrong Tangelo.
Wrong Tangelo is pretty good.
Can I say one more thing for Erica in the chat?
No.
Absolutely not.
I'm telling you, you have to learn to start just interrupting and bowling over people. Just steamroll.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you got to learn to ignore it. Yeah,
it's just not my personality. I'm trying.
You'll get it.
Manners do not fly on live streams.
You need to make a YouTube channel. That way you can learn to be a dick with a huge ego.
Pretty much, yes. Especially once you reach 1,000 subs, you think you're God.
I'm going to be insufferable then.
when you get the power, Andrew, of kicking people in the back room, you'll love it.
maybe. I was just gonna say. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. You. I was just making a comment.
You gotta be rude.
Okay. I was just gonna say, Erica, I think for once this is one of the few streams I've had with Standing where I know that he's blatantly wrong, and I feel pretty confident about how I did for the most part. So
yeah, and we got under his skin today because he was in chat doing damage control more than he ever has been. Usually he comes here and talks about movies.
He do the damage control for the damage control.
Yeah.
No, I love that. I enjoyed seeing Andrew call out SFT when I was also in the chat before I joined. And I do think, you're getting better at sort of doing that because, you have to fight that little voice inside of you that tells you to be polite to people and just tear them a new beehole.
I'm beyond that point. I'm sorry, but just what these people are saying is so dumb, so wrong. It's really hard to be polite at this point when I've seen their character.
I just wanted to second that. I think your last two debates, this one with Standing and the one you had with Nephilim, your case is getting stronger. So good job.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Dussel.
Yeah, you're getting better.
For being a friend.
Yeah, you're honing your craft by with Nephilim and all the things that we tried to keep you from doing, and we were wrong. We should have let you go.
Yeah, so. Most of these YEC, if you they like to challenge people like that are evolutionists or whatever. But if you actually engage them on what they're saying, they usually fold faster than Superman on laundry day.
Is evolutionist a word?
I think it's colloquially become a word that's acceptable to use because, if you have like a title of a debate, it's going to be creationist versus you can't really just say person that accepts the scientific theory of evolution by natural selection. It's just easier to say
that makes sense.
Yeah, but anybody that, I don't know, I find it repellent to use that word.
I agree. That's why I was asking because I was like, whoa, it's weird to hear someone who accepts science call it evolutionist or evolution. But I get it.
I'm doing my damnedest to figure out the very intricate mechanisms of how things evolved, and somehow calling myself an evolutionist would mean what? It's a religion? No, that's not what I'm doing. I'm looking at it critically.
It's
I'm
kind
looking
of
at it critically. I'm not accepting it.
Yeah.
What do y'all?
Yeah, my thoughts exactly. It feels religious when you say it like that.
Well, historically, because it's young creationists who started the term evolutionism and evolutionist, but historically you've had groups like that have had a name that's been negative applied to them reclaim that word and use it for themselves, to take away the power of that word, the word queer, for example, and others racial epithets, reclaim that word, and maybe that's what we could do with evolutionists, or unless you guys can think of a better one.
Well, no, I mean that is really how words work anyway, I guess. There's a term coined, and then it's whether it's good or not, it eventually will get used. Yeah. Because I guess technically to not use the word, even though it's commonplace now, I guess it would be more of a genetic fallacy to not use it, I guess, in some degree.
Yeah, to some sense. Uh-oh.
I didn't mean to kill the conversation.
Oh no, just what happened to Speed? You okay, Speed? What's going on?
Heart attack.
Okay, am I back?
Nope, we don't hear anything. Do y'all hear anything? I don't.
I don't hear anybody who was born after the Second World War happened.
Yeah, you little jerk. So anyway,
the ghost of Speed's past.
I stapled this Nicholson paper and my mic glitched. It fucking unplugged or something.
Well, don't staple things to your microphone.
I just hit the stapler on my table. I'm sorry. And I muted before I did because I didn't want you guys to hear this.
AJ, I laughed on the inside, but I'm trying not to laugh so much because apparently I laugh at everything, which is
don't be self. I said that was a positive trait of yours, so don't be self-conscious about it.
What the hell? Every time I hit my table, my mic.
Okay, it's hard not to laugh at speed. I'm not gonna lie.
Just you can hold back when it's anybody else talking, but you should not hear everything I say.
That's right.
So we're gonna shoot her in the head pretty quick.
Yeah. I just to end it off, I want to say thank you everyone here for coming in and sharing your thoughts and adding to the conversation, especially where I wouldn't think otherwise.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here for.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah. I know that Andrew is, he didn't want me to come in, and he protested heavily against it because he thinks that I'm going to come in here and not take things seriously. But
you want to debate too, Atheist Jr?
No, I'm scared of you.
I'm gonna let Danny in here before I leave.
But I think we both have the same number of debates. We've both done 2, unless you've done another one. Or more than
I
that.
don't think so. So yeah, I think so.
Well, yeah, it would
Hashtag
be
debate me, bro.
Well, that's the name of Amy Newman's debate channel thing.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Did y'all hear anything? I didn't.
The ghost of speeds past.
I heard him.
Okay, I'm gonna let Danny in after I end the stream, so you guys can argue with him.
Yeah. Before we do that, are you sure you put a link to Jason Thorne's premiere in the description?
I put so much shit in that description that I have no idea what's in there right now.
Well, we just want to make sure that everybody goes over to that. It's a new channel. It's called The Science Ultimatum with Jason Thorne. I kept calling him Thorne. And it will be tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central. He'll have a discussion about methodological naturalism versus theism with Otangelo.
Say that 5 times fast.
Yeah, so just
Jason Thorne, the Thorne of the side,
or put a sticky note on your device or whatever. But make sure you go and support him. Subscribe to his channel and support him.
Yeah,
I'm gonna tattoo it to my arm.
Everyone unsub from this channel and go sub to that channel.
Oh, it doesn't work that way. Girl, maybe I think you have a fundamental misunderstanding of how this stuff works. We need to find you a how-to video on how-to YouTube.
That would probably help me.
What in the hell is going on now? What's happening? I'm trying to put that link in the description.
Oh no.
I don't know if I did.
Is Danny still backstage?
Yeah, he is.
Do you want me to admit him right now?
No, not until we end the stream. Not until we end the stream.
Hey, where did Speed
and then
go?
Immediately end it.
Hey, where does Speed go? I guess we might as well let Danny in. So
I don't know. The average age of the panelists just went way down. Or
this Germania guy's got to fucking go in the back room for a while.
Yeah.
Until he learns to behave.
I have a feeling he's in trouble.
YouTube etiquette. You gotta learn some fucking YouTube etiquette, son.
You son of a bitch.
Get off my fucking lawn.
Get out of my dreams and into my car.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay, with Jason Thorne, August 14th. Okay, we got it in there. Now we're saving it. Now it's in there, Scotty.
Red Fang said it would help Gur a lot. I don't like you no more, Bluetooth. That's what I call Red Fang.
Very clever.
Bluetooths. Bluetooths.
That's pretty good. Okay, can we shoot this in the head?
I recommend it.
Yeah.
I recommend it.
4 out of 5 doctors recommend it.
Hit the like button, everyone.
10 out of 10 would do again.
A like button would be good. So, okay, what the fuck am I doing? What's happening? Oh, I know. Okay, goodbye, cruel world. We're shooting at the head now.
I've given up, and so should you.
Yes. And here's Danny.